Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. The other day we took a look at the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions campaign deck for the Death faction. Today we are going to take a look at the campaign deck for the Chaos faction. Now in my last video I pretty much went over the rules and all that sort of stuff, so I'm not really going to cover that here. I'm just going to take a quick look at the contents of this particular box. If you would like to know more about this game, which is a pretty decent game, like I say, watch my video on the Death the Death faction, because I sort of go into things in a lot more detail there. What do we got? We have, as with the Death campaign deck, as with all of there's 4 campaign decks. There is a Death, Chaos, Destruction and Order, as you would expect. And they all come with one of these horrible paper mats. Paper mats are horrible. You can play the game without this paper mat, but this makes it a little bit easier to organise and to know what's going on, and it has a health tracker that goes around all the way around the edge of the board. But you can play it without it. And there is also, I believe, they are making neoprene mats for it, and if I was going to really get into playing this game a lot, I would definitely want something better than the horrible paper mats that come in those campaign decks. There are also quick rules, which seem pretty straightforward, nicely and clearly laid out. But however, I am looking at them from the standpoint of somebody who has already been playing this game in an app on an iPhone, so I pretty much already know the rules from playing that, which probably, makes things a bit easier. There's a booster pack. There's a booster pack in each campaign deck, which is quite nice, because it means you immediately get some options for building more than what they give you in the deck. And then you get a deck of cards. The deck of cards comprises 4 champions, 4 blessings, and then I believe it's 30 units and spells and abilities. And I'm going to fight with this cellophane, but I would win. These counters that's health counters. They twiddle around the board and track your health going down. And then so we've got, this is a champion. It's a Chaos champion. He's just basically a bog standard champion. He's one of those characters that it's a starter set character, and there's going to be better characters coming along in boosters. An aspiring Deathbringer, an iridescent horror. We can see down in the bottom corner that there are 278 cards in total, and I'm guessing that means uncommon, and the C means common, and I've seen an R on some cards for rare, but I don't know exactly what the breakdown and distribution is of rare and uncommon and things like that. I would need to look that up. That's a Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury, as opposed to the Bloodthirsters of Fettered Fury, the Bloodthirsters of Slightly Annoyed. I can't imagine there's many Bloodthirsters who want to try and discuss the differences over a cup of tea. They're all pretty much Unfettered Fury, aren't they? So, increase the damage done from highlighted units on their last corner against your opponent by 1. Okay. So, that's your 4 champions. And then you've got 4 blessings. Berserker Rage. Chaos Runeblade. Oh, look at that. Look at the massive damage it does. As a heroic act, you can rotate it. You can do that damage and rotate it. So 3, 4, 4, and then 5. Wowzer. Once that comes into play, you're going to just start beating the living stuffing out of your opponent. Outrageous carnage. 4 damage to your opponent. Remove highlighted units. Jeepers. Okay. That's some good blessings. The Path of Skulls. 2 damage to your opponent at the start of your turn. Okay. Not so good. Right. Twisting Screamers. We're just going to have a quick look at the artwork and stuff, really. Like I say, if you don't know how the game plays, I go into it in detail in my previous video. But basically, you play units and each turn they rotate and they do what it is in the corner. It's a really neat mechanism that I really like a lot. So, and quite often it's very thematic when you look at the cards. See, this is the Gorslick Skull Reaper. So he comes into play on a 1 and he will do rending damage of 1 to your opponent. And then on the next turn he will rotate and he will do Nout. He's just going to stand there. And then on the next turn he rotates again and he does 3. But he's also got an ability that says last stand, 2 damage to your opponent, which means when he finally comes off the board, even as he's going off the board, he still gives your opponent another whack. Which is cool. Fanatical Skull Fiend. You have to love Games Workshop's naming of chaos things. Pack of blood letters, because 1 ain't enough. And a charging Blood Crusher. So he does nothing for the first 2 turns he's in play. Because he's charging. He's coming a long way away. It's like that scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. With the charging knight. Really nice artwork. I believe you can have up to 3 cards of the same type in your deck. It might be 2, but I think it's 3. So one thing it's one of the things I don't really enjoy about trading card games is having duplicate cards. I don't know what it is, but it bugs me to have multiple cards the same. And obviously, I realise that you need that for the utility of the cards in any game. But yeah, I like to have lots of different artwork in my hand. I'm odd bod like that. Rejoice in slaughter. Why wouldn't you? The gift of change. It's absolutely essential to have the gift of change when you go and park where there's a parking meter. Blood Hunt. Remove a highlighted spell or unit and gain 1 health. That's cool. You see all the cards have this sort of highlighting system, and that tells you who the cards will target, which is really useful, really interesting. I think it's a very interesting game because it's not just about what your cards are doing, it's where your cards are in relation to other cards, and also the time that they've been out in play. And what I particularly like is that nothing is out in play forever. It's like this is a Arcane Bolt. It's a powerful spell, but it takes time for the wizard to draw the energies to actually cast a spell. So it comes into play and does nothing. And then on the next turn, it does nothing. But then on the next turn, the magic finally coalesces and it strikes your opponent. It does 7 damage, which is massive. But then on the next turn, it goes away. It's done. It's not gonna do that again and again and again. It's there. It does its thing, and then it goes away. And that's really interesting because nothing sticks around being a bother for the whole game. It's quite nice because it was almost like its own sort of built-in catch-up mechanism almost. It's like you're never really out of the fight because even if your opponent puts out something really tough, if you can survive that thing being out, or you can do something to minimize the damage that thing does to you, that thing will go away. Even if you can't personally play a card to get rid of it, eventually it will go of its own accord. So there's always a chance to come back, even if you've been completely screwed by the cards in your hand, even if your opponent puts down a whacking great dragon that looks like it's just going to beat you sideways. Eventually, if you can hold on, that dragon goes away and you can start clawing back, and you can start clawing your way back into the game. And that's a really, really cool thing about this particular game that I like a lot. And anyway, that's that. I've probably talked enough about that. I'm going to do one more video, I think, where I'm going to open the booster packs and we'll see what we got, and I'll show you the booster pack that came that got me started interested in this game, which came with my White Dwarf magazine. But for now, that's all from me. Bye everybody. Bye bye.